When last we left the All-Star Tour, 3 different points leaders had staged takeovers of the then 5-truck series. With a longer list of names now joining the contention, who can hang on as returning competitors rise to the occasion. The Monster Mashers Championship Series continues here in 2023, part of the All-Star Monster Truck Tour, and we welcome you to the penultimate stop on the 2023 Championship Series here at the Appalachian Fair in Gray, Tennessee, which was a great stop. Last year, the weather was very nice. This year, it is bitter cold, but that did not stop the best fans in motorsports from coming out to check out 5 big bad monster trucks. That includes a new spoiler one time on this tour, Cliff Val in the Virginia Giant out of Fairfax, Virginia, and a story there is that this will be the last hurrah for this hand-painted body that we've become so accustomed to seeing on board this truck. Cliff will debut a new retro style Virginia Giant we'll be seeing later on in our coverage. Another big story coming into this, the return of Toxic 2.0 to the tour, but Corey Snyder, the normal driver of that truck, suffered a minor back injury at the shop. Preston Perez, who normally drives Toxic 1, will jump aboard Toxic 2.0 for this weekend only to try to keep these guys in the conversation for points. They're not out of the conversation for the number 1 spot, though they took a lot of time off. In fact, they'll only be competing in 5 rounds of a little over a dozen total on this 2023 Championship Series. Here's a look at the points coming into this doubleheader of highlights that we're about to show you. You see Crazy Train up on top of teammate and brother Plain Crazy. That's Triton Robbins leading over Montana Robbins and Elliott Miller. Those are the 3 trucks that have run this entire series, followed by Hole Shot and Ice Cream Man from the Triple B Motorsports camp. Sitting down in, I believe, about the 7th spot right now is Corey Snyder in Toxic. And again, Preston Perez will be at the wheel of that truck today. But we start things off with Saturday afternoon on a very muddy track here in Gray, Tennessee. It rained and it did not get warm, but it is beautiful and sunny right now. As we look at the coverage here, you can see all the mud on the track. And as bright and sunny as it looks, it is only about 38 degrees out right now. Making plenty of horsepower with these big blower motors. That'll actually help them there. But the fans are having to bundle up, and so is the camera crew. Cliff, knowing he's playing spoiler this weekend on the All-Star Tour with a score of 3 to start things off. Not going to put him in contention at all, really, for an overall here today, but he had a strong start as Elliott Miller out of Ionia, Michigan, battled with a slippery track and not a lot of tread. You can see he's running those China tires, much like Cliff does, but look at all the clay accumulating around the tread. A lot of horsepower with very little traction, and it's just not working to his benefit. A little extra move right there for the crowd, but not enough to get over Cliff Val. He lands with a score of 2. He scored a point apiece for each move. Here comes second in points now. Montana Robbins out of Lawton's, New York. And you can see when he hit the brakes right there, he just slid head on into the back of that race ramp. It's a very steep freestyle obstacles off the backs of these race lanes. If it weren't for the mud, he'd have had a great obstacle to attack for some 2-wheel action right there in front of our cameras over here on the backside, but you can see how tough a time they continue to have. He scores a 3 to tie him with Cliff Val. Flying the flag for Sinistar this weekend. Here comes, though, Preston Perez out of Frederick, Maryland by way of Spokane, Washington, and Perez was about to turn it up. Huge sky wheelie as he rips the left rear bedside off. And one more move he was going to try and make here. Keep an eye on that bedside. Remember, that thing got patched back up when they were down in Florida. It's held together for most of the rest of first quarter, save for a rollover that Snyder had indoors. But it's back in 2 or 3 pieces now as Perez launched that truck into low orbit, not once but twice. 4 points apiece for both of those moves for a score of 8. And there you see coordinator Stacy Jensen out there, one of the best directors in the business, picking up some pieces of Preston Perez's victory right there. And he knew he was going to have to go big because right behind him, carrying the flag, signifying he is the points leader, Triton Robbins, the projected champion on this tour, hasn't wrapped it up, and he's got to defend that position here in gray. Wanted a slap wheelie, wanted a sky wheelie into a slap wheelie. That's what he has been doing this season. That did not work for him. That would cost him points. Then this happened. Cannot get a hold of the dirt, and unfortunately for Triton Robbins, it would land him with a 5. And the winner in this best trick competition and helping his teammate Corey Snyder immensely this weekend, and his team owner Jay Snyder and their crew chief Kevin Rico, Preston Perez, maybe making them bite their nails a little bit over there in the pit area as he landed hard on the back of the chassis. But Ryan Disharoon and the entire Metal Shop crew built one heck of a piece of equipment. The big Kevin Stauffer power plant in the back. Keep that horsepower in mind, though. The big Chevy may not be in the back of that truck much longer as we look through highlights of this week. And we go into round 1 competition. Elliott Miller on the near side of the track. This is an outside turn J-hook. It is a short, choppy track, and keep in mind the traction difficulties these guys have been having. An incredibly close battle. The tire advantage had to go to the train, but Miller laid into the throttle coming across the finish line. Watch it again as they take off, and we waited on word on this Saturday afternoon to find out who the winner would be. Miller with an actually pretty good turn in spite of the problems he's been having. One of the best turns we've seen him take all year long. Right there, he manages to squeeze past Triton Robbins for an upset victory in Sinistar on one of the toughest tracks. Not the most complex, but the surface is certainly not friendly, especially to these guys with the big horsepower and the China tires. Again, similar matchup here, Ford-bodied machine with the China tires going up against one of the New York-based Eddie Micah-built machines out of the Robbins stable in Western New York. That is plain crazy again with those Goodyears. Getting into some of the track markers there and having to back out of it to avoid contact with the outside fence and these telephone poles. And we want to thank him for not showering down the camera crew with mud. Now, we move into the semifinal round. Remember that upset matchup between Elliott Miller in Sinistar and your points leader Triton Robbins in Crazy Train. That was a very important matchup in the point series because third place had defeated first place in that first round. Here we see a guy who's fighting to get his teammate Corey Snyder back on the board at all in the top 5 and in the money. Toxic 2.0, Preston Perez tries to knock out Elliott Miller. May have spoken too soon, thanking Val for not showering down the camera crew, but that move right there would not be enough for Miller to knock out Perez. Toxic 2.0 moves on to the finals to face the winner of our next matchup.
This Back Channel Productions program is brought to you in part by Monsters Monthly. Stay up to date with photos, videos, event info, and more at monstersmonthly.com. And by RPM Army, the place to get your motorsports fix.
There's only one place in the world you can find this much old school cool. Freedom Racing Monster Trucks. The home of Cyclops and Unnamed and Untamed. Get yourself a limited edition toy at freedomracingmt.com.
This Back Channel Productions program is brought to you in part by Crush This. For an inside look at the monster truck phenomenon, check out Crush This, a Monster Truck podcast.
Fans sitting on the hill, and that tent is full of heaters, a place for them to go and warm up, get a little coffee, get a little refreshment, get back out here to watch the action. And the bitter cold, but as I said, it's not stopping these fans from enjoying the sights, the sounds, the smells, the fury of the 2023 Monster Mashers Championship Series. Remember I said that first heat of the first round between Sinistar and Crazy Train could have been the most important battle so far? The next two may be the deciding factors on this point series. Crazy Train and Plain Crazy, first and second in points in the semi. Triton and the Train was not about to lose more points in the racing bracket. These are very important points. They'll walk away from you very quickly, and that would set him up for a championship race with the likes of Preston Perez in Toxic 2.0. Perez knew this was an important battle for his team, for his truck. Remember, that truck did carry that flag for one event in Davie, Florida. They would love to get it back on the back of the Ford, and they do have an outside shot at number one. They know they have a shot at the number two spot mathematically, but there's an outside shot for them to surprise everybody and jump up into that number one spot. How would they do here, though? The championship race on day number one in Gray, Tennessee. Fighting through tough track conditions, Preston Perez taking a wild ride after the final jump, but he knew as slick as this track was, he'd be able to throw it in there and not have to worry about it hooking and rolling over. One more look at it. It was a good jump for the Train off the line. Both of these trucks had good turns, but Perez got back on that big Kevin Stauffer horsepower, 557 cubic inches of Chevy might in the back of the 14 Ford-bodied metal shop chassis machine. Perez looking mighty impressive in Toxic 2.0, picking up a few more points toward the season total. Cliff Fowl now coming out to start off Freestyle. Remember, I mentioned at the top of the show, this is the swan song for this hand-painted body. It's been upside down more times in Cliff's possession than I think it ever was in Deal's, and the wear and tear is definitely starting to show as you see the roof finally coming off. It was literally hanging by a zip tie there at the end, and Cliff said he didn't know how long it was going to hang on. Held on a little longer than I think he thought it would, but when we talked to him later, he said he knew it came off because he suddenly saw the cockpit brighten up with sunlight. But watch him here as he goes to work with this big Brad Anderson Hemi in the back of Virginia Giant out of Fairfax, Virginia. Time is awesome. Keep in mind that Josh Garcia went through the shock package on this truck and got everything reset, tightened and tuned. Cliff Fowl works a very slippery track, trying to work it to perfection, and you can see he's kind of getting a hold of it. There's a little dust coming up off the surface now. That means they're digging down below this mud. As long as it does not rain between these two events, this is what's going on in their minds, they will have a good track here tomorrow. Cliff Fowl opening up strong in the Virginia Giant. Only a score of 14. Some people might have felt like he earned a little more than that. A lot of momentum. Maybe could have used a few more wow moments as you see Kevin Rico pulling double duty this weekend on the Toxic Gator. Trying to hang on to Cliff Fowl's roof in some wind, not let it blow away like a kite, as Elliott Miller would be out next in Siniston. Very hard for this machine on a course like this to get its patented slap wheelies down, and that's really what Brian Bartle back in the day built this truck to do. This is a redesign of the original Patrick chassis. I don't know, you call it the Gen Zero Patrick or whatever, but these V-Cradle Patrick chassis, there were only a few of them built. Each one kind of had its own identity. Well, this one was built by Bartle. And when Brian found something that worked for him, he stuck with it. It's working for Elliott Miller this year. It's a lot of horsepower with not very much traction. And again, he's got a disadvantage with those sort of smoked out China tires that he's running on there. Not the baldest China tires we've ever seen, but certainly could use some more tread here this weekend. Got it to stand up a little bit right there. Elliott Miller, maybe the loudest truck on the premises this weekend, and certainly trying to use the decibel level to his advantage as he is putting his foot down, maybe the heaviest right foot right now as far as day one freestyle goes. He's not getting what he wants out of the truck though. Stoppy into the moonwalk. That's what he was looking for. He finally got one. Again, though, I talked to him after this run. That was not what he was looking for. The good thing that we're seeing, though, is some black starting to show up underneath the mud as they're actually peeling that clay off the tires. That's an indication that it's drying up now. Montana Robbins and Plain Crazy trying to get the Stoppy off the race lanes. It's possible, but he needs to get him dried out just a little more, and you can see him burning some of that clay off the top of this track in Gray, Tennessee. I said it was choppy, though. This track has put some guys on their heads, so it may be to their advantage that day one is seeing such slick conditions, because remember last year, Buddy Tompkins, who actually drove this truck earlier this season, did roll over here. Best end-to-end momentum we would see to this point in the competition, but he knew he had his brother and he had Preston Perez coming up behind him. You talk about a guy who would like to get to the number one spot. The guy he has to jump over is his own family and teammate, Triton Robbins in Crazy Train. But right now, Montana Robbins trying to find something to make this run his own. You can see they're still struggling with those two-wheel moves with this slick conditions. The Empire Flyer living up to his name right now. Some great hang time, and again, the momentum at this point was second to none. A score of 24 would put him into the number one spot for the moment. The crowd favorite coming out to the adoration. Here comes, though, Preston Perez subbing for his teammate and son of truck owner Jay Snyder. Corey Snyder is here, though. He's in the back right now watching this run. And remember what Perez did to this truck in Bestrick. These guys were absolutely white-knuckling that gator during freestyle. Zinging the motor. Keep that in mind for what is to come on our Sunday afternoon highlights coming up in just a moment. Perez, though, not wanting to do exactly what he did in the best trick competition. This is more of an endurance competition at this point. He threw down his best two with all that hang time he got in the skills competition. Here, trying to keep the momentum up, trying to make noise, going move to move, and he is certainly rivaling at this point, in my opinion, Montana Robbins. Wrapping up an outstanding run. The man from Maryland goes to the number one spot with a 27. There you see Rico picking up more pieces of the body. Not the first or last time he would or is going to do that this season. Here is a look now at the run, the final freestyle from Saturday afternoon. Triton Robbins, the points leader, the projected champion in Crazy Train with that engine program that he and his brother put together themselves. A lot of horsepower they built out of Mike Janis's shop in Western New York. That is where Triton works when he's not driving his monster truck. And believe me, these brothers have brought this team to a whole new level. Cyclone time over in front of the grandstands. Found a nice slick spot and went with it. Trying to one-up Preston Perez, and Perez did not make it easy on him. This is a guy who, if a move fails him, he will come back with a vengeance. Not one to disappoint his fans, but also a guy who doesn't like to lose. Might have been looking for a cyclone there, but I think he may have checked his oil pressure and saw it wasn't what he wanted. But that final score for him would net Preston Perez the freestyle victory and the overall. We weren't done though. Action from Sunday afternoon coming your way next. Well, it was chilly on Saturday, but it was even colder, even windier on Sunday, and we still had some of the best fans in motorsports turn out for another round of the Monster Masters Championship Series. A little bit better track, and again, these cool conditions actually help these blower motors make more horsepower. And there you see Corey Snyder, driver normally of Toxic 2.0, watching his driver Preston Perez, seeing him off into competition. But things did not get off to a good start for everybody on Sunday. Keep your eye on Plain Crazy. Get ready to throttle out for intros. And you see, he came to a halt right there on that end of the grandstands. That was not his intention. Broken transmission in intros would put him out for the majority of competition, and that would be a major blow to his points chase and his points hope, sitting in the second place position right now. You can see they went to work immediately. The good news is that the transmission, the fluid, everything wasn't really hot, and as cold as it's been out here, everything stayed pretty cool. But you can see they're having to work very hard in not the nicest conditions. Usually it's really hot when they're trying to lift heavy parts out of these trucks. Well, on this day, their fingertips and knuckles were getting quite the beating in the cold air. A lot of numb extremities as Cliff Fowl starts off best trick competition again here on day number 2, and he's throwing some new moves into the repertoire, things that the Virginia Giant fans may not have seen in years past. Little two-wheel action for the PEI-REI hybrid chassis. Again, swan song for that body, much better today with a score of 5. Elliot Miller now in Sinistar, looking for a little revenge for his Saturday afternoon performance. Not what he was looking for. Nice job with the stoppie there. What would he have for hit number 2? Throws it onto the nose. And again, trying to live up to his billing here, the founder of the Monster Truck Throwdown. Trying to keep himself in points, but what you just saw right there was him checking the truck out. It was not simply an attempt at a move. Something is wrong in Sinistar. We'll keep you posted. Preston Perez trying to pick up where he left off in Toxic. He clean swept the event on Saturday. He wanted to do it again on Sunday. And with the biggest air, I was in the best trick competition to open up Sunday afternoon for these fans. Preston Perez would not only blast into the lead, but he would block anyone else from that #1 spot in best trick, doing what he needed to do to try to keep it in points. And as I said, there he is again, Kevin Rico picking up some fiberglass off the track. And you can see, not the happiest maybe about having to drive out there over and over again, but these guys are like family when they're out on the road. The points leader not having the best start to his weekend. Immediately broken parts on the front end. You see the 2 tie rods come off. He's got the double tie rods. Ripped the bung out of one, pulled the Heim apart on the other, but that was not his only problem. When he did that, it actually damaged the steering rams, and it cost him a move in that best trick competition. He had to be towed back. It did so much damage to the front end. You can see the 2 rod ends still connected to the tabs on the housing there. They had their work cut out for them, and that would take them out of the racing competition. You see even Stacy Jensen, there's father and team owner Bob Robbins jumping in, and Montana Robbins running in between this truck and his own, trying to get a transmission back in there. Even the Triple B guys, who were right down the road at another show in Asheville, North Carolina, came on over. They didn't have a show today. They even helped get trucks back on the track. Would the Robbins brothers be able to answer the bell and get back in it for racing? The answer was no, but it would hold out to see if they could get back for freestyle. In the meantime, on the starting line, your day 1 clean sweep winner, the overall champion Preston Perez in Toxic, would match up with Virginia Giant in round number 1. Could Perez do it again? You see Val bobble big time the final corner. A much better track, but heartbreak for the team out of Maryland. And there you see a very disappointed, almost disgusted Corey Snyder right now going over to talk to the man driving his truck. And this was not Perez that caused this problem. A camshaft detonated inside of that motor. They were done for the weekend. Any hopes they had of earning any more points dashed, and unfortunately for this team, this season and last season, them going off on the hook has become a familiar sight. They kept their smile about them, they kept their good nature and everything, as you see Kevin Rico trying to strong-arm that truck as best he can as Stacy Jensen lifts him off the track, but that is not the way they wanted to go out of competition in Gray, Tennessee, and a very disappointing weekend. End of the weekend, I should say, for Preston Perez. Now, a bye run in round 1 for Elliott Miller in Sinistar would push him on through into a championship battle with Cliff Vowell in Virginia Giant. I mentioned this being an endurance race. It certainly turned into one. 2 guys who were sort of struggling on day number 1 found themselves in a final round battle. 1 trying to jump up out of 3rd place in points. 1 trying to spoil the party for everyone. Here involved the Virginia Giant in the near lane. The spoiler taking on Sinistar, 3rd in points at this point on the weekend. And Val would pick up the victory right there and spoil the party just a bit for Miller, but Miller would pick up 2nd place points in racing as Val celebrates. And you saw what happened to Miller. He found some dry dirt, got some bite, and when he took off, the wheels got back in that damp soil, and it came right around on him. Not too upset, though. Again, keep in mind, Miller fighting through a truck that's ailing a little bit. Remember, we mentioned during the best trick competition he was having some problems. They would persist, but he was not going to give up on this crowd in Gray, Tennessee. Freestyle action coming your way when we come back to the Volunteer State. Stay with us.
Hey, welcome to Wild Man Adventures. For the Silver Lake Sand Dragway. There really wasn't any off-roading back then. It was all off-road. We're on our way to Lima, Ohio. Got wooden wheels.
Oh, it's slippery as all get out.
Hey, we're here with Rich Cummins. Hey, we're here with Mike Potter. Hey, we're here with Alan Pizzo. Gotta check it out. This week we're going to go down memory lane.
Freestyle action coming your way from Sunday afternoon's event, starting off with Plain Crazy. The Robbins brothers able to answer the call with at least one of their two Eddie Micah built machines out of Lawton's, New York. That Jansen horsepower in the back, built by the brothers themselves. Montana Robbins rolling out onto the track to open up the first freestyle of this Sunday afternoon, and he was finally able to get that truck on the front tires. Remember, he did not make a best trick run or any race runs today in Gray, Tennessee. Keeping the action level, keeping the noise up, keeping the fans entertained. Knew out of the #1 spot he was capable of getting a win. We saw him do it in Best Trick at the first stop of the year down in Brooksville, Florida. He would love to have been able to take a freestyle victory from the #1 spot on Sunday afternoon in Gray, Tennessee. Would he be able to do it? That question would be answered as competition went on. Getting the most out of a day that did not start on a high note. A score of 25 to start this competition meant that everybody behind him was going to have to go for it to keep themselves alive in the points. Elliott Miller in Sinistar again with an ailing truck. He had drivetrain issues. He had, I believe, a pinion going away on this machine. The front end not really hanging in there, but he's trying to get the most out of it. As you notice, it's not pulling, it's in and out, and that would make two-wheel action almost impossible for the driver out of Ionia, Michigan. Of course, that only means on the front tires because he had plenty of drag off of those rear wheels. Got over there in the area where the pit party took place and hit whatever was in front of him. Worked that thing for just about everything it had, but didn't want to use it all up. A 23 for Elliott Miller. Still wants the truck to be alive without too much more work that his crew chief Farmer is going to have to do. Remember, these guys have to run a week from now in Chattanooga, Tennessee, down on the Georgia-Tennessee line. Cliff Val going right behind his best buddy Elliott Miller. Another Ford body machine. Those guys very well represented on this tour. And Val getting some of the biggest air I think I've ever seen underneath of that truck. And remember, he had a wild season in 2022. Again with the two-wheel action. Keep in mind this truck from the cab back, literally from behind the halo, the down bars, the whole rear of that chassis was chopped off after a bad break for him where he literally folded the whole truck in half. It wasn't a real hard landing. He just had mechanical problems that led to him completely destroying this chassis. Well, Toxic crew chief Kevin Rico completely rebuilt the back half of this truck, and it is a tank right now. That's not taking anything away from Dan Patrick and the Patrick Enterprises crew. This truck was just a few generations back. It was the last of its generation right before Toxic 1, which was the first of its generation, and even that truck underwent a little surgery to update it to hold in for the competition these guys are now taking part in this day and age. But Cliff Val definitely keeping the truck up with the best of the best in action in modern competition. There, that for that two-wheel move. Mistimed it a little bit, but he will get that as time goes on. The final run on the old hand-painted body and a score of 21. If you've been following on social media, you know the next time we see this truck on our coverage, you've already seen it, the retro Virginia Giant body that he's brought out, that thing will be thrilling fans, young and old alike, and those of us who grew up with the beautiful blue and silver colored Virginia Giant remember the old bullnose well. But now it is about points. Crazy Train, Triton Robbins answering the call. A lot of work. They worked on this truck literally till Cliff Val's freestyle to get it back into the action. Finally getting some of the two-wheel moves he was longing for all weekend long. That guy is one of the kings of the stoppies, of the moonwalks. rivals just about anybody else you've seen do it on these independent tours, and definitely a guy who can move into any stadium and give everybody a run for their money. Right now, though, trying to earn his keep and hold on to his championship hopes on this All-Star Tour. You start to see the puffs and the smoke rings out of the left side as he is burning down a head gasket or something. We never really got a word what was damaged in that truck. But as he cut into those cyclones, you can see the smoke billowing out of the left side cylinder bank of Crazy Train. It was still smoking. That means it still had oil in it, so he didn't totally pop that motor yet. A score of 23 for Triton Robbins in Crazy Train to wrap things up on this day in Gray, Tennessee. But here was the important part as we look at the points coming out, and you notice Crazy Train did not add any more points to his total. You throw out the worst scores that you have during the season, that left him this weekend with 456 points, playing crazy Sinistar hole shot, and you see Preston Perez did what he came here to do and jump Toxic 2.0 back into the top 5, where he will be when we bring you our final coverage of the 2023 Monster Masters Championship Series. 2 days of action from the Georgia-Tennessee line at Boyd Speedway, homecoming weekend for the All-Star Monster Truck Tour and championship weekend for the Monster Masters Series. Don't miss that. We will see you then. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time.